Well, at this stage, allow me to conclude the intervention that I started this afternoon. And of course, we were interrupted. We had to go for lunch. So let me start by saying it's important to acknowledge the fact that the potential is there, but it's not exploited, and that West Africa has the capacity in the current conditions to meet it through its own production of the fertilizers. That's the demand that exists for fertilizers in the region. What is necessary is to work together under the initiative that has just been launched by countries, so that in the current conditions of international market, where you have very high fertilizer prices, that we would be able to put together or to make grouped procurement, and then make sure that the transportation is secured, and then benefit from support from our states, so that the cost of access, as far as the farmers are concerned, will be something bearable, so that even if it's higher than $700 as it was yesterday, it should in any case be lower than the 2,800 as the example that was given us of Gambia. That is possible if we work together. And in many areas, it's possible that if we work together, as far as investment, productive investments are concerned, that we would win, and then we would explore better public resources, so that the public sector, the private sector can act as an engine. Then we create more jobs for the youth, for the women, and then to integrate better the farming initiatives in the value chain, and then we can transform or manufacture the cashew nuts, maize, sorghum, and so on, and then provide the market and sort of flood the markets. So as we are saying, it is still possible that we can speed up the movement with the regional reserve, with whom really we registered some success, because our system of storage or our mechanism for regional reserve, it's unique, and that is being copied elsewhere as a point of reference. And we can even be more effective if we open up the regional reserve to the private sector, in other words, to work together with the states, and then to synergize with the farmers, the cooperatives, the producers associations, even as low as the villages, so that that infrastructure will be the sort of selling point for seeds, rice, maize, sorghum, and so on, and also will serve as a point of, let's say, collection for industrialization for the private sector, and also for the great or large warehouses, so that whenever there's let's say, disaster, our storage centers will not be compelled to appeal to Asia or Europe or the Americas, but they'll be able to buy locally, and then be able to meet the needs of the population that will suffer from, let's say, flooding or a natural catastrophe or disaster, or even a fire outbreak. That can be done if we work together. And at the same time, let me assure you that the establishment of these poles of growth, it's extremely important, because in these poles of growth or development, you can insert various crops, and also you can have many actors together. There's the government, private sector, etc. So to conclude, let me say that together we can go much, much farther. But if we want to continue in isolation and then try to secure highest prices with our technical partners, of course we will achieve results, but these results will not last long. We have to make a paradigm change, and this will be done together within the economic community for the development of West Africa. So our faith is placed in this. We shall make every effort together with our colleagues, even if maybe some of us may not be there physically. We'll be able to continue to work with you so that that torch can be raised higher and higher. We have the ways and means. We count on you so that through your capacity to adopt laws, you can analyze the problems, you take the decisions, and you'll be able to disseminate all this in your countries. And that will boost, I would say, the economic development for the benefit of our populations. So, Right Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. Now he's speaking English.
Honourable members, I hope you have been sufficiently enlightened on the activities, achievements, and challenges of Ecowas Commission's Department in charge of Agriculture, Environment, and Water Resources. I also hope that you will give of your best in the field to support this department in the implementation of its programs. I thank once again the Ecowas Commissioner in charge of Agriculture, as well as the directors who accompanied him for this insights, for the insights they gave us on the various activities on the community program. Honorable Commissioner, thank you very much for your patience. We appreciate you so much, and we pray God will guide us to implement your swiftly put together paper given to us this afternoon. Respected colleagues, as you may know, our sub-region is saddled with multiple security and humanitarian crises. And UNHCR is a key organization in helping refugees, internally displaced persons, and asylum seekers. That is to highlight the importance role of the organization, and we are hosting today this organization. On behalf of all of you and of myself, I welcome the UNHCR delegations to the Parliament. Now, permit me to give the floor to the representative of this organization to make their presentation. After the said presentation, we'll proceed with debate. On this note, I invite all UNHCR presenters to take the floor. You are welcome.
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, honorable members of the Parliament. My name is Hervé Kouyaté. I am normally the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Senior Liaison Advisor to the Ecowas. As UNHCR, we did prepare this presentation to the honorable members of the Parliament, together with our colleagues of the Commission, Ecowas Commission's Directorate of Humanitarian and Social Affairs. But unfortunately, due to other commitments, they have to leave. They were with us here till this time. So I'm presenting on behalf of our both organizations and institutions. And indeed, as UNHCR, Honorable Speaker, we are very much happy and grateful to the Parliament for giving us this opportunity to present on the humanitarian landscape and to highlight some of the challenges faced by the humanitarian community and by persons of concern to UNHCR, to this very honorable institution. I will continue in French. The presentation is in English. I believe that will also help easing the work for interpretations. Je voudrais commencer par...
So let me start by presenting a few figures regarding people who benefit from the mandate of UNHCR in West Africa. We have, in all, about 4,800,000 persons that enjoy the mandate, that is internally displaced persons, who are about 2.8 million, and these are refugees and asylum seekers of more than 1 million, and people who are returning or coming back home after they had traveled away, over 500,000 of them, and various other categories of people who add more than 130,000. So if we take account of the trend in specific terms of internally displaced persons, that is those who didn't cross borders, but they are within their own territories, we'll see that between June 2021 and April 2022, that is in less than 1 year, we have this curve, that's graph, which shows a continual upward movement of the number of people. And so with an increase of more than 800,000 over the same period. So in total, since January 2020, we have an increase in the region, in West Africa region, of 1.7 million people who are displaced within their own borders. And over the same period, we had an increase of more than 249,000 asylum seekers. And then we had an increase of 1.2 million of internally displaced persons within a single country, which is Burkina Faso. That's 1.2 million since, or newly displaced persons since January. That is, they are in Burkina. Over the same period, we have more than 390 new refugees. So those are figures. And if we want to continue to conclude with these figures, and then we mention of citizens of certain countries who have moved into different countries. For Mali, for example, for Mali, there is a new rate of more than 20,000 who crossed the borders recently towards Niger. And then there are other, let's say, arrows and so on. So I hope you have the maps and so on, so you can have all the details, because we have circulated the document. So this slide can scare people. That is not the objective, but it's just to represent the incidents which occurred in the West African zone, in the conflict countries especially, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, who today, as we are aware, they become areas of serious concern. And we are talking about a situation in which, in 2015, for example, there was a very small number of incidents with loss of lives. These incidents have been increasing in intensity, and up till now, we have more than 1,500 that are affected civilian populations, with more than 400,000 dead. So the impression or perception of security in this area or region, that is falling about 23%. So this figures that sort of scare people to even enjoy freedom in their areas. So these figures were realized by UNHCR, and with the support of other agencies who are working in the same region. In other words, they've interviewed the affected populations and then have sort of taken their temperatures. So the main trends of displacement are linked to conflicts in the region. And this can be summarized in a continual rise in numbers of internally displaced persons, IDPs, and that is linked to the persistence of conflict and tensions, and also a growing urbanization, which really it's linked exodus. In other words, people travel long distances to flee from conflict, and then they arrive in the urban centers. So this phenomenon is becoming more or less more like urbanization. One important dimension of this phenomenon is the numbers. People don't get displaced only once. People have done it once, and then maybe security there was not as strong as they expected, so they left those areas for a second point, sometimes to a third point, to a fourth point. So in an increasing manner, these people are becoming very weak in the situation in which they live. And then in addition to all this, and also in the same line of thinking, very often, within the same country, we see people who run away from a village where they were to go to a further place within the same country, and then they suffer a new conflict. So now this time they prefer to cross the border to the next country. And